Alrighty, Chef Buck here, and today we're gonna cook up some buttermilk biscuits and some mushroom gravy. I want sausage gravy, but because I'm 50 now, I'm gonna eat mushroom gravy. Alrighty, so boom, what's in this bowl here? We got 4 cups of all-purpose flour. This is unbleached all-purpose flour, doesn't matter, all-purpose. We're gonna put in 1 tablespoon of baking powder, which is very exciting. We're gonna put in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. We're gonna put in a little bit of salt. Boom. Well, then we're gonna put in a little bit of sugar. And you don't have to put in any sugar. Just a little bit. Just because
it's like a tablespoon.
We're addicted to sugar. So now we want to go ahead and get this all mixed up so that your baking powder and your baking soda and your salt and your sugar are mixed in with your flour. And then we're gonna cut in our butter. So I've been keeping it cold, you know, because for buttermilk biscuits, you want to make sure and keep your butter super duper cold. And we're just gonna throw it in here.
It's like cheese.
You know, I already got it diced up, but we're gonna cut it in here a little bit. And if you don't have one of these things here, you can just use a knife, a couple of knives, and cut it in there. But this is gonna leave some nice chunks of butter in your biscuit so that when they're baking, they're gonna have some nice buttery goodness in there. And you don't have to do a super duper uber crazy job of this. You just want to have some little crummy pieces in here. You just don't want big super duper chunks. But little chunkettes is okay. Well, that looks pretty good. You getting flour on the camera lens? Is that what you're doing, camera girl? Is that
just
what you're
getting
doing?
a different angle.
Are you trying to screw up our $75 camera? Alright, so once you got your butter kind of cut up in there, but you can still see there's nice little chunks of butter in here. Alrighty, I already got my buttermilk in here, boom. And I've kept this cold. You know, you want your butter cold, you want your buttermilk cold. We'll just throw it in there. Don't have to be all fancy pants with it. You don't have to add it a little bit of time. You don't have to make a well in the center. You don't have to do none of that stuff. Now we're just gonna toss it around and get that buttermilk mixed in with the flour. Just roll it like this here. You don't want to overwork your dough, you know. You want your biscuits to end up being fluffy, so don't work them too much. And eventually, it'll start to stick together into an itsy bitsy tiny little ball. But mine isn't. So that means I need a dash more buttermilk. And that could happen. But you don't want to add too much because you don't want it to be too wet. So just add, I'm just going to throw another tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. Just itsy bitsy leany, because I've made this recipe before in this size, so I know it's kind of dry, so I just add a little bit more. Alright, so now our flour is coming together. You know, there's not a lot of loose, dry flour in here. So now we're going to put a little bit down on our surface so that we can spread our dough out for our biscuits. Alrighty. So we'll push it together just a little bit. Give it a smoosh. But we don't want to smoosh it too much. Don't play with it too much. And if you want to get a rolling pin and roll it out, you can, but you don't have to. If you go ahead and smash it out with your hands, that's going to work just fine. Let's see. And now it's about a ½ inch thick. You know? Boop. And that's it. And you can see there's chunks of butter that you can still see in here. Now I don't have a biscuit cutter or anything like that. Between 2 and 3 inches, so this will be a pretty good size. Put some flour here so that I can flour the edges of my glass. Alrighty, now I'm gonna go on the edge so I can get as big a biscuit or use as much of the space as I can. And there we go. There's my biscuit right there. I'm just throwing it on a baking sheet, and I'm gonna just put some parchment paper down here. Boom. Let's see how many of these we cut out.
Looks sort of like a skull.
Thank you.
Not anymore though.
Alright, once you've got as many cut out as you can, we'll go ahead and form it back into a ball and spread it out again for a little bit more. Don't smash it up too much, you know, don't roll it around too much. Alrighty, and when you put your biscuits down in your pan, make sure they're together. You know, arrange them so that they're right next to each other. Alright, this last little one, I just got enough. I'm just gonna throw it down here, I guess here. This will be my bastardized biscuit on the side here. So we get about 13 biscuits out of this here, but you know, it's depending on how big you make them. You don't have to make them this big. You can make them a little bit smaller. You can make them twice as big. You can make gargantuan biscuits. You know, follow your biscuit heart. So right now we got our biscuits all panned up, and now we're gonna throw a little bit of buttermilk on top. Just brush it, and that's gonna help it to brown up a little bit. You know, you can do this with butter too, but then you gotta melt a little bit of butter, and we've already got the buttermilk. Boom, boom, boom. Now we're gonna go ahead and slide it in the oven. I got the oven preheated at 425 degrees, and I'm gonna let them bake away for about 15 minutes. And while our biscuits are baking, we're gonna throw together our mushroom gravy. Okay, so I got a little bit of oil and butter in here. So I'm just using about a half a cup of chopped up onion. I'm gonna go ahead and brown this up for a minute. Then we're gonna throw in our mushrooms. Basically, we're just cooking up our mushrooms and onions, you know, and letting those get sauteed up with the gravy. Mushrooms have been cooking for a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes. They're starting to cook down a little bit and brown up. I'm going to throw in a little bit of salt. A lot of salt. I'm going to put in a little bit of black pepper. And we're going to season our gravy a little bit too, but I just want to go ahead and season this up so it'll flavor up a little bit while it's setting aside. Let's go ahead and check our biscuits and see how they're coming along. Alright, it's starting to rise up. It's starting to get a little bit brown on top, but
hold on
about 10 minutes.
Hold on.
Oh, no, I ain't holding them out no more. They need to stay in there. That's all you get. That's all the sneak peek you get. Can't have them out of the oven for too long. Now these here things cooked up enough, I think. So we're gonna go ahead and set them aside. Get them out of the skillet. Now we're gonna take, boom, another stick of butter. This is like a half a cup. Throw it in there. We're gonna let that melt down. Alrighty. So now we're gonna put a little bit of our flour in here. Our butter's melted up enough to get going. We're just going to throw in a little bit of it and stir it around. Get my wooden spoon. And this is called making a roux. We just want to stir our flour and our butter together until it's nice and smooth. Adding our flour. Adding the flour and stirring. You know, you want to keep it going so it's nice and smooth and doesn't burn. Thickens up a little bit. Alrighty, now see it's nice and smooth, all the butter and the flour incorporated together. Alright. And you can use whatever kind of milk you want. You can use whole milk, 2%. You can use half and half. You want it nice and thick and creamy. Now we don't usually keep a lot of milk around here, so I'm using almond milk, and that works fine. And we're gonna end up putting in like 2 cups of milk. See, as you add the milk, it's going to absorb into the flour and thicken up. So you can just keep adding milk until it gets to the consistency that you want. All right. So now we're stirring in our milk and our flour and our butter. And we'll just let this go for a few minutes and check on our biscuits. Let's see how they're looking. Well, those look like they might be ready.
How about the bottom?
Let me give them another minute, because I like my biscuits done. See how nice and creamy smooth that is? And we're gonna go ahead and put our mushrooms and our onion back in here. And you could do this with sausage. You know, if you don't want to do a mushroom gravy, if you want a nice sausage gravy, then do this exact same thing, but instead of mushrooms, you know, just put some sausage in there. Just get your sausage all nice and cooked up, and then add your gravy. Then add it back into your gravy. Now let's see. Now we're gonna throw in a little bit more salt, and you kind of want a lot of salt for your gravy. I know we've already salted up our mushrooms, but flour needs a lot of salt. A flour gravy like this needs a lot of salt to be flavorful. We're gonna add a few other things too. But let me see how my biscuits are. My biscuits might be finito. Boom, I think those look perfecto. So we'll go ahead and get those out. Let them cool down. Why are you messing? You're messing with my biscuits. Alrighty, that's pretty thick, so I'm gonna add some more milk in here. This will probably do it for the milk for a bit. And I got a little bit of salt and pepper in here so far, but now I'm gonna add a few other things. Got a little bit of ground sage I'm gonna throw in here. How's that? That looks pretty good. I'm gonna throw in some Worcestershire sauce. You know, so even though I don't have any meat in here, it'll give it some semi-meatiness. And if you wanted, you could add some garlic powder. You could add some thyme. In fact, I am gonna add some thyme. Let's see, got some dry thyme here. Add about that much, but you can add as much as you like. What about some hot sauce? Should we put a splash of hot sauce? Woohoo! A little bit of hot sauce, whatever the heck kind you like, just for a tang. And then that's it. I think that's plenty of flavor for this gravy. Now, if you wanted to, you could thin it up with a little bit more milk, and you can use this the next day too. You know, if you want to make this ahead of time, just whenever you go to reheat it, you can add a little more milk to it, a little more half and half, or whatever the hell kind of milk you want. I'll throw a little bit more in there just so I got some more gravy. Now look how creamy and luxurious this is. This looks like the kind of gravy that Donald Trump would eat. I don't know if he eats a lot of mushroom or sausage gravy and biscuits. Maybe a wee little bit more salt, just for the hell of it. You kind of want to add the salt as you go, because you don't want to over salt it. So just add it a little bit at a time as you go along, and then you know you can always adjust the flavor. But that's it. That's plenty of gravy. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Let's see how our biscuits did over here. All right. See, your biscuits will just break apart. They just pull apart. Sitting around for a minute or two. Boom. Throw that there. I'm going to get my messed up biscuit that I put together by hand. Break that apart. There we have it, buttermilk biscuits and mushroom gravy. Ooh. That's all there is to it. It's pretty easy to make. Kind of leaves you a mess to clean up. That is rich. Rich. The key is lots of butter, lots of flour. Like I said, mushrooms if you want mushrooms, or sausage if you want sausage. Come here, camera girl, I'll give you a bite. Whoop. I accidentally ate your bite. I think I like mushroom gravy better than sausage gravy.
And those biscuits are perfect. That is perfect.
But that's the key. It'll take about 15 minutes, but you really just want to bake your biscuits at 425 until they get as golden brown as you like them. And I just got them on parchment paper because I don't like fooling with the, you know, once you start using parchment paper, you get spoiled. But you know, you don't have to make gravy. You can just make biscuits, you know, spread a little bit of butter and jam on them. Camera girl, she likes to take strawberries, you know, slice up strawberries, put some sugar on there, make kind of like a strawberry topping. And then instead of gravy, she puts the strawberries and a little bit of whipped topping on top. Kind of like almost like a strawberry shortcake, but not as shortcakey. Just eat them with butter and pancake syrup.
Not pancake syrup.
Pancake syrup, it's just like pancakes. Or you can use, what do you like to use?
Cane syrup.
But there you have it. Boom, buttermilk biscuits, mushroom gravy. Go ahead and give these recipes a try. Let me know what you think. And bon appetit.
I want some more.
You know,
What are you doing?
time to stop eating this crap.
You better be sharing some of that before you get a big bunk in the head.
Yeah, we're gonna eat this half this damn pan already.
Yeah, we are going to.
This is like my fourth biscuit. God damn.
Well, maybe if you ate it instead of inhaled it, you'd enjoy it a little more.
Alrighty. Stop spying on me.